Welcome to episode 250 of the DFO Rundown, brought to you by Betano. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. And of course, you can have games 4 and 5 coming up of the World Series. You have lots of NHL action, NBA, anything you like. Check it out, betano.ca. Please play responsibly as we welcome in Frank Saravalli.
Do you know that Monday? Sorry, I am from dailyfaceoff.com.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Monday was the sports equinox, 29th day ever in our planet's history that NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL all were active on the same day. Only happened 29 times. The equinox.
The equinox, eh? All right.
It's the best time of the year for that reason.
Well, there is so much going on right now for sure.
I think
it's
April
exciting.
gives it a run for the money, but this October is pretty good. Late October, early November.
Well, April's good because you have usually 2 playoffs, right? NBA and the NHL. That's probably the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Although there is no NFL. There is the draft, but there's no NFL games. So there is lots to discuss, Frank. We'll go around lots of different things on and off the ice. Let's start, first of all, with a few teams that are rolling here. The New York Rangers, for the first time, you were telling me, in 100-year history of this team, they sweep a road trip of 5 games.
Yeah, not quite 100 years because the Rangers weren't formed until 1927. So we're closing in on 100 years, though.
Okay. 96.
And yeah, any road trip of 5 games or longer, this is the first time they've swept it. They needed a little extra time against the Canucks and Jets to end off the trip, but still pretty impressive to go Kraken, Flames, Oilers, Canucks, and Jets on the way back east. And they looked pretty good doing it. You and I saw them in person last Thursday against the Oilers. They move well. Peter Laviolette seems to have them pretty dialed in terms of what he'd like them to do. And no real surprise there. He's someone that gets almost immediate success in the first year with all of the teams that he touches.
Well, you look at the Rangers right now. To me, they're winning by defending. They don't give up very much at all. Like Jonathan Quick might have been sitting in a rocker against the Edmonton Oilers. He didn't have to make many saves that were difficult in that game at all. And, you look at Shesterkin's numbers, although they're not out of this world good, they're just solid. They don't give up a lot of shots and they don't give up a lot of scoring chances right now.
They've got 18 really goals against in 9 games. I mean,
yeah. Hey, anytime you could be 2 goals against a game, your odds of winning are pretty good.
Almost everything they've done, their power play has been excellent. It's clicking at almost 35%. That's like Oilers territory from last season. I know we're just a little more than 10% of the way into the season, but there hasn't been one facet of their game really that hasn't been good.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people thought the Rangers, I don't know if there was anybody who didn't pick the Rangers to make the playoffs. Like, they're expected to be a good team. I don't know if anybody thought they'd be this dominant defensively early on, but they played very well. But there is a team, Frank, who nobody thought would make the playoffs, and it's early, and I'm not saying they're going to make it. But what about the Anaheim Ducks all of a sudden? Winners of 4 in a row, and the Road Warrior Ducks right now.
Yeah, they also sweep a trip out east. It felt like that trip was going on forever. I know it wasn't that long by Duck standards, but Columbus, Boston, Philly, Pitt.
Yeah.
And they run through all 4 of those teams. To be fair, 2 of those teams that they faced were non-playoff teams from last year, but to hand the Bruins their first defeat of any kind this year was interesting. And then the Penguins, I mean, look, I think we're all expecting the Ducks at some point to regress. They're a team that I think is incredibly thin, but beyond that, I'm more intrigued by the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are now considerably further behind a team like the Ducks in the standings. 3-6-0, just 6 points to show for their first 9 games.
Yeah. Well, I think what we have to mention about the Ducks, though, Frank, so far, the best production value for a free agent, Frank Vatrano, 9 goals in 9 games for the Quackers. This guy has a career high of 24 goals with Florida a few seasons ago, and he is absolutely on fire for the Ducks early on.
I mean, first off, it's the name, of course, Frank the Tank. There's a reason why he's got 9 to this point. I mean, multiple hat tricks so
Yeah.
far this season. That'll certainly help your goal total. Look, he's a guy that is a pretty consistent producer in terms of his activity in the NHL. He's been on a bunch of different teams. You saw him go. He was one of those playoff pickups for the Rangers a couple years back that helped them get to the conference final. Like he's an interesting guy that I think you just plug and play. You put him right in and wind him up and watch him go.
Well, I just, you know what, this is like 9-9, man, is excellent production. You can't ask for a better start. You mentioned the 2 Hatties already. And, Mason McTavish, a young player who, had some injuries last season, and he's leading the team. He's got 11 points in 9 games. And, Strome, and then they got, they got some, and considering they're doing all this, without Trevor Zegras doing much, he's got 2 points in 9 games. Like, that's what's impressive to me about the Ducks is, the guy that they're expecting to be their offensive leader, he's got 2 points.
Yeah, but you say all of this, and I think it all indicates that this is about to come crashing down, is it not? I mean, Frank Petrano is not going to continue to produce at this pace. McTavish is probably not going to be north of point per game. We know Ryan Strome isn't going to be. Trevor Zegras will bounce back. John Gibson's going to be out for a little bit, right? He left the game on Monday. I don't know how long, but by the way, watching that game, the Greg Cronin ejection, it's just so rare to see a coach get tossed. I mean, we're talking like 2 or 3 in the last 5 years.
Yes.
He's got, what? Greg Cronin has very real Dean Evison vibes behind the bench, does he not? Like, he's one of those guys that you feel like he's looking at you and he's piercing your soul.
The thing about Cronin is talking to 2 players there, Frank, like so far, like first impressions, they're just his intensity, they feel is like magnetic a little bit. And, it's early, but for a team that hasn't had a lot of success, you suddenly get a little taste of success. You have a new coach who's got this real positive vibe, who's really intense. And all of a sudden, guys gravitate towards that a little bit. And I think, I'm not saying the Ducks are going to make the playoffs. It's not what I'm saying, but they've been infinitely more competitive than people thought they would be, right? Like a lot of people thought the Ducks would be at the bottom of the standings. And, like the San Jose Sharks are at the bottom of the standings, like not even close. But the Ducks have been competitive. And, you got to give the coach credit. They obviously brought in some new players and some young guys. We mentioned McTavish and stuff. But I think a lot of people question that hiring, and it's early. But you could see why Pat Verbeek hired him so far.
Why would people question it?
Well, there was people saying, geez, why, because there's a little bit
because they don't know him. That's the
Yes.
truth. If you were questioning it, you'd say what you're really telling everyone is, I don't know Greg Cronin or who he is. I don't know his body of work. I don't know the time that he spent as an NHL assistant. I don't know the good teams that he had in Colorado the last few years in the AHL. He's been an NCAA head coach. Like he's done it at almost every level and multiple different stints at every level. And if you didn't know intensity before, you'd know it after seeing him for 5 minutes. Like I said, pierces your soul.
Yeah, well, you know what? Good for the Ducks. To me, it's better to have more competitive teams in the league. Right? You don't necessarily want the guaranteed free bingo spaces, and the Ducks have definitely not that. There's, the Sharks would be that right now, and other than that, I think it's pretty good. There are some teams that speaking of the Ducks, who they beat Pittsburgh last night, Frank, they're now 3-6. And I wonder when it becomes concerning for the Penguins.
I mean, wouldn't it not be already? You're 12% of the way into the season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a lot of change made, and I think everyone has to allow for the idea of this team to gel and set. And there's a big adjustment made, of course, with their power play. But I don't know. I mean, they've really struggled to defend, has been a huge part of it. Like, how much of that are you placing on Tristan Jarry in net? or is it the defense? Like, and to me, it was one night, one game. I saw them on opening night when Connor Bedard was there. And the first thing I thought of was that looks like the same way the Penguins have defended for the last couple years, which is not good enough. Can't get out of their own end. And then you see Jari open up now, 7 starts, .893 save percentage. I don't place it all on him. I think it's more about what's going on around him.
Well, what's funny about, you look at the Penguins, like they're actually, they can score 5-on-5, right? I think they got the 4th or 5th most goals 5-on-5, but they're also giving up a lot 5-on-5, right? So that to me is right now they're playing probably a little bit too much pond hockey that they would like. As much as they give, they're giving it back, right? They take and they give too much right now for Pittsburgh's liking. And their power play, though, Frank, early on has really struggled. It was interesting. I spoke to Josh Yohe, covers the Penguins, and he feels that, the biggest thing is they got to let Carlson do more on the power play. Like right now, he's like, they don't really have anybody who's taking charge of their power play. And that's what Carlson does. And so I wonder if we'll see that improve.
But what does that mean?
5-on-5 scoring is not a problem, but their power play right now is being anemic.
So what does that mean? Someone needs to take control or take charge and do more.
Well, if you watch the Oilers power play, it's McDavid and Draisaitl and everything runs through them, right? And it seems like now they're like, well, geez, there's Sid and there's Malkin, and neither one of them have ever necessarily, like, they don't run the power play the way that McDavid and Draisaitl do. Or even look at Toronto's power play, right? Like Marner and Matthews, like, it's pretty, well, Nylander too, but you look at, it's much more authoritative, I would say. Watching the 2 Pittsburgh games I've watched, when I see their power play, it looks like, no, you have the puck. No, now you touch it. Okay, everybody gets to touch it. And to me, that I don't think that necessarily works. Like, everybody knows what Washington was going to do on their power play for years, Frank, and it worked, right? Like, you knew exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, but like, could anyone not have foreseen this coming with Malkin, Crosby, and Carlson, 3 first ballot Hall of Famers on 1 penalty?
Well, they had Chris Letang before. It's not like he's chopped liver.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, like, first off, it's operated one way consecutively for 18 years, whatever it is, 19 years. So take that part out of it. And, like, could anyone have not seen this coming, meaning it would be a pretty big adjustment? Did you think it would be plug and play?
Yeah, you're talking something. Well, they've had a month plus preseason, right? Like, it shouldn't, to me, when we're talking the best players in the game here. It's not like you're putting a bunch of third liners who you're hoping are going to find some chemistry. Like, these guys have figured out offensive sets before.
Chemistry, nonetheless. Like, sometimes it doesn't make sense. You put good players together and they don't work. How else do you explain what's happening in Calgary with Jonathan Huberdeau and at times Kadri or Lindholm or whoever you try and, plug players in with? It hasn't worked. It's a different situation because you're talking even strength versus power play, but still, I mean, Carlson, we've seen this before in San Jose when Brent Burns was there. Different situation, but still, it's not always seamless. And I'd been saying, go back to, July, August when this trade was made. It's not necessarily just swap them out and everything's going to be great because you added a 100-point defenseman.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Carlson, look at the offensive void he left. For people who thought, oh yeah, Carlson, yeah, look at San Jose without Erik Karlsson. They're averaging 1 goal a game. They've played 9 games. They've scored more than 1 goal once in 9 games in an offensive time in the NHL. And they have more than 1 goal once
in
9 games. It is. They've scored 1 goal 6 times. They've been shut out twice, and they have 3 once when Carolina was leaking goals for fun. That's it. It is. Oh,
it's actually kind of like, I'm sorry, I hate to laugh, but it actually is kind of funny.
Like, that is crazy, honestly. Like, we're talking, there's a chance here we could see them. I looked, Frank, in the 2000s, there's only 1 team that ever didn't win at least 20 games. And that was the Thrashers in 2002. But that's when we still had ties, and they had 11 ties. So even if one of them would have went to a shootout, out of 11, they might have won 1 of them. You know what I mean?
Well, we'll see how long this goes, but Ray Ferraro tells some great stories of that Thrashers team. He said after they finally did win, they hoisted the trash can around in their dressing room like it was the cup.
Yeah. Well, they probably got that. They probably got that from the Washington Capitals. Ronnie Lowe told me that when the Capitals won 8 games, I think that was in 1975 or 76, they actually did it on the ice. They took the trash can onto the ice when they finally won a game.
Unreal. I mean, look, the Sharks, when you said that, I went over and I looked at the Sharks scoring list so far this season. So you got Tomas Hertl, who, by the way, is, I think, only in year 2 of his 8-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 5 points in 9 games. Then you've got Fabian Zetterlund, who has 3, and third in team scoring with just 2 points. 2 points will get you to third place in team scoring. Philip Zadina. Unbelievable.
It is going to be a long
They got 2 guys that aren't even on their roster anymore that have as many points as Philip Zadina, Thomas Bordeleau and Henry Thrun. They're back in the minors.
Yeah. Yikes, man. It's not going to be good there. Now, let's talk about some teams that are other teams that are rolling. It is early, but you look at the month of October. Happy Halloween, by the way, for everybody.
What's your favorite? What's your go-to? What's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh God. I probably would go. God, I like everything. I'm a sweet tooth whore, really, but I would go with that's simple. The mini Kit Kats.
Huh? Why mini? Yeah. Why not just full size?
Well, actually, hey Frank, I'll send you a picture, buddy. You should see my house. Last year we had 185 kids. And the year before we had 160. So I think it keeps going up because there's more development in our neighborhood. So I bought 216 full-size chocolate bars. We got 14 different types. So the kids get to come to the table and pick what they like.
So I stopped over your house on Saturday. It was awesome. After 250 episodes now of the Rundown, we got our families finally a chance to meet, our wives, our sons. It was great. I could see why your neighborhood is like one of the perfect trick-or-treating neighborhoods. Like you can get around very nicely. And it's some walking, but not a ton. Like you can you can hit a lot of houses in your neighborhood.
My son, we kind of sat down the other day and mapped out his route for Halloween to be the most efficient, right? He can leave our house and go east and he'll go all the way around 2 cul-de-sacs, come back. He can empty his bag. Then he can go west and it's even longer, come back. And then he can go up north a bit where there's a brand new development that's now fully finished. And I think I counted there's like another 70 houses. So yeah, he's got lots of places to go with where he can, kind of drop off the pillowcase, empty it out and reload. So it should be fun.
I mean, come on. Is that not like straight out of Home Alone? You map out your route so you can maximize your candy.
Buddy, you got to be efficient, right? I told him, I said, you can go this way and never have to cross the street till you come back home. You have to cross the street because you go on the one side and it's a cul-de-sac. You don't even have to cross the street till you come back to the neighbors across from us and then cross it once. And then you go the other way, all the way on the one side of the road, all the way around through everything, comes back.
Wait, so you don't go with him?
Him and his buddies are going to go together this year. We've done it in the past, but this year, the 2 neighbor boys, like he's almost 10. The other guys are 11 and 12. So they don't need dad hanging around. So I'll sit on the front porch and hand out candy and get to see everybody. And
it's actually my favorite part about going. I just bring like one of those, like a little trolley or one of those red wagons, a wagon. Yeah. And I throw a bunch of beers in there and walk through the neighborhood right in the middle of the street.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. But
is there anything better than that? That and like the second best part of Halloween is, hold on, come over, bring your bag over. I got to check it. Dad has to check it and make sure there's nothing weird or any drugs in here.
Well, what's funny is
it's the first draft of the candy selection. You get the first round pick.
Yeah. Like my son, he's into chocolate. There's lots he doesn't like. Like he's very particular about certain things. So like he doesn't drink pop because he hates carbonation. So there's always a few pops and, I don't really drink pop, but anyway, but then there's lots of like gummies he doesn't eat, like Skittles, any of that he doesn't really like.
Oh, and that's my jam.
Yes. So that goes into the separate pile. And we found out here in the hospitals that a lot of times there's people that they need sweets when they're going through surgery and stuff. So then we end up going donate some of it because otherwise I'd eat it all and that's not good for me. So
nice. Yeah, I'm a Sour Patch Kids.
Oh, yes.
Any kind of gummy candy that's what I'm into.
Oh, I love the sour. Yeah, it's got to be the Sour Patch or sour Skittles. Well, I'm all over it. So
Yeah.
the worst candy though, like I know you guys have candy corn. Thankfully, we don't have much candy corn here, but they do have the one candy. It's orange and black. It's got like it's molasses toffee. If you hand that out to children, you basically are saying I hate kids.
I don't know. I don't know what one you're talking about. Maybe we don't have it.
Yeah, you're right because it should be banned. It's
Even
awful.
like the crappy I think along the same lines, like the York peppermint patty. Who hands that out to kids? What kid likes a peppermint patty?
Sure,
Like my kids are always complaining about the Almond Joy. I happen to like the Almond Joy.
Yeah. I think we have that in Canada regularly anyway. So
100 grand bar, like even some of the cheesy chocolate bars, like I kind of like.
100 grand bar. Yeah,
You don't have that
one either.
What about Take 5?
Nope.
See, Canada has shitty candy. I say this all the time.
Whoa. No. Take 5 bar. Like, no. Now, do you guys
Take
have
5 bar? It's got pretzels in it.
Oh,
Pretzel, chocolate, caramel. I mean,
yeah.
What else could you want?
It's like the people who go and get those big pretzels at a game. Like, why? You're just eating condensed dough. I think it's the worst food ever. I hate pretzels.
You haven't had a good soft pretzel then. Come to Philly. I'll get you a good soft pretzel.
I'll have one and I won't like it.
Dude, soft pretzels are our thing here, man.
Yeah. I don't know. No,
we used to, when I was a kid, we used to have guys out on the street corner hawking pretzels. And so you'd be driving down the street at a red light and they'd come over and sell you a quick bag of hot pretzels. I was always like, how do they make it hot? How are these pretzels hot?
In a microwave.
It turns out the guy would stand there and at the red light, if no one was buying, he'd hold them down near your muffler.
Oh, come on.
Hot pretzels. Get your hot pretzels.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, mixed in with a little methane. Love it.
Unbelievable. Get your hot
I'm not sure I'm not sure that guy would be the generous guy of the week. Although maybe someone would say, hey, he's doing whatever he can to make it warm. So let's get to that, Frankie.
Yeah, let's get to the generous guy of the week, presented by Crown Royal. And this time, we're going to go in a little bit of a different direction with the generous guy of the week. It's in honor of Adam Johnson, and it's on behalf of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Their clip, and if you had a chance to watch their intro to the game on Monday night, it was really moving. All of the Penguins players were standing around there with the Ducks players around the center ice circle. And lots of those guys there's still a few holdovers from Pittsburgh when Adam Johnson made his NHL debut and also scored his first NHL goal. They showed the video of that in the locker room, him getting the Player of the Game award from Sidney Crosby. Pretty special. And what I loved about the ceremony was, as awful as the story is with Adam Johnson passing away at the age of 29, during a game on Saturday night in England, is just, instead of a moment of silence, they had everyone stand in the building and cheer. And that was incredibly moving.
Yeah. You know what? I saw it. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of like a celebration of life. And I find that's, a lot better, for somebody like that, especially for Penguins fans, because you think about it, when he played for them and any team he's played for, the fans are usually cheering for somebody. So I think it's kind of fitting in a hockey environment that they elected to do that. And it's definitely, a situation you don't see very often. So kudos to the Penguins, their organization. To me, that kind of goes above, that fits right in for a generous guy. Anybody who doesn't know what it is, it's somebody who goes out of their way to help a teammate. And obviously this is a former teammate. Generosity lives in small things with Crown Royal. And that's what they did. It's a small thing, but I think when you think of Adam Johnson's family and his friends, and to see him honored in that way is a very special moment for them, and obviously a horrific time in their life. Yeah,
and it's nice to take a step back and look. This is horrific every which way, but the response from the hockey community, not surprising, time and time again, how it comes together, whether it's at the Heritage Classic or before that. Buildings around the league that had no connection to Adam Johnson. This hits everyone so hard. Current players, former players, doesn't matter. Hockey parents, youth hockey players. This is a tough one for everyone to try and wrap their head around.
I know, Frank, you and I were discussing this at the Heritage Classic. We were just sitting there chatting before the game, and our boys are the same age. They're both 9. And we were talking about it, and they were like, well, do you think they'll make it mandatory in the NHL? And I'm like, well, it's mandatory in minor hockey there. And you were just like, no, it isn't. And I'm like, in Canada it is, but in the US, it's not mandatory for young kids to wear a neck protector. It's recommended, but not mandatory, which I'll be honest, that kind of surprised me.
Yeah, I'd say coaching our youth hockey team, 9U, I think my son is the only one. There might be one additional player, but almost no one wears one. And I think having it mandated, but here's the thing. It should be mandated. There's no question about that. But look at the NHL. How many players in today's NHL wear neck protection? You see some goalies that don't, which is incredible to me.
Yeah.
Now so you can't even make the argument, though, that if you were to mandate it in USA Hockey the way that it is in Hockey Canada, that players would stick with it and continue to wear it, because that's not the case.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. And I think they'll have the conversation. And I understand, the initial reactions, well, it should be mandated in the NHL because, there's obviously it's very freakish, right? You think about it, like Clint Malarchuk and Zednik had their necks slashed, but they both survived, thankfully, in the National Hockey League. And you think of all the games that are played in the NHL, the AHL, the East Coast League, Sweden, Finland, Czech Republic, name all the pro leagues around the world. And, we see something like this in England, and it's obviously extremely rare. And so, I know it's wild. You don't put it in because, yeah, sure, it can happen. And it's very true. It can happen. But I also see the other side where they say, hey, this is, like 0.0000, whatever the percentage is.
I don't care.
Do we have to do it? I think what you'll see is you saw some players in the American League do it themselves. I think that's probably what's going to happen here. I know, Frank, you were talking about like TJ Oshie's a player who's, and there's other ones now that have it where you have your undergarment shirt and it's basically like a turtleneck, right? And the neck protector is just built in. Now, we don't know.
Why wouldn't you wear that? It doesn't inhibit you in any way, and you get protection. Look, this is an extremely odd thing for me as a hockey parent. Saturday morning, this is always my worst nightmare. Kids, and compared to pro, kids are all over the place.
Yes, I agree with you there.
Dog piles in the corner, jumping on the goalie after the game, whatever it might be. There's a million ways for kids to end up with a skate cut somewhere. I happen to be on TJ Oshie's apparel company. It's called War Road, named after the town where he's from, War Road, Minnesota, home of the Christian brothers as well. It's called War Road Hockey. They were the first to create this shirt that has not just neck protection, but also sleeve protection for your wrists. Yes. I happened to order this shirt on Saturday morning, the same day Adam Johnson died. It sent chills down my spine when I was sitting at dinner on Saturday night and saw that news come across my screen. I don't, if you look at the shirt, my son already had a couple other shirts that had the neck, but not the wrist. He doesn't know, first off, he doesn't know any different. And second, it's not annoying or painful to play with. I don't know why you wouldn't, you wear something under your gear anyway, the same kind of tech material that this is. Why wouldn't you just throw that on there? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I think, you know what? It's one where you'll probably have some players think about it, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. I was quite surprised at minor hockey level where the kids can't really control themselves, especially at the younger ages, right? They're falling all over the place. You mentioned the doggy piles, and that's a situation where I think it's possible. Now, I remember the neck protectors we had, like in Canada, it's gone back when I played. Like we're talking, 25 years ago when I was playing minor hockey, that it was mandatory. So that's why I was kind of surprised that it's been that many years and it hasn't been there. Do you think USA Hockey will consider implementing it?
Yeah, I think they already are talking about it. It would take a rule change and they'd have to get everyone together to do it, but I think it's something that they're going to consider. But I wanted to go back to the pro part of this, of what you were saying earlier about how rare this is. I mean, we've seen a lot of skate cuts to the face. We saw one last week, Jacob Lauko.
Yeah.
Right in the eye. Like, we've seen really close calls on the face. We've seen skate cuts all over the body, leg, thigh, Achilles, whatever it might be, arm. We see them all the time. Skates are flying. This is not, I don't think this is as rare as you think it is. I just think that they're just typically don't result in death. I think the fact that we could do a little better to prevent even the other ones from happening, and we're not doing it. I don't know why there would be any pushback from the NHLPA, which, just to make clear, the NHL has been trying to push and mandate these exact garments that we're talking about for like 2 years now. And the PA has pushed back and said, we'd like players to have freedom of choice. If you've listened to this pod, you know that I am all about freedom of choice. But in this case, it helps protect players from themselves, and it's not intrusive. I don't know why you'd push back against wearing this.
That's the same question why more players with all the shot blocking, why they don't wear the plastic over their skates to protect broken bones, right? Because, it is safer, but lots of them, it's all about comfort and, fashion over function sometimes. So we'll see how it goes. But, again, our condolences to to Adam Johnson, everybody, all his teammates and friends and family. It's obviously a scary situation for everybody over there. And we did see that starting January 1st in England now, neck protector will be mandatory. So it's the next 2 months, it's optional, but starting January 1st over there. So they've implemented it pretty quickly. So we'll see where it goes.
The pride of Hibbing, Minnesota. Minnesota Duluth Star. Just hate to see it. Really tough.
Let's bring in Tyler Yaremchuk. Ty, how you doing?
I'm doing good, gentlemen. I'm locked and loaded with a fresh edition of Fill in the Blank, and it is delivered by our friends at DoorDash. For a limited time, our Canadian listeners can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees when they download the DoorDash app and enter the promo code NATION25. If you're running out of time to run errands, go grocery shopping, and cook that delicious meal for the holiday gathering you agreed to host, DoorDash can help you out with all of that. Ding dong. Dash that for the win. All right, let's get into it. I got 3 set up here for you guys. Off the jump, you talked about the New York Rangers and just how damn good they're looking defending well. That blue line is just so mobile. I want to know, fill in the blank, your top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. Who are the 3 that you think have the best shot at winning the Stanley Cup, Frank?
I don't think it's changed all that much, to be honest. Even Toronto is off to a good start. I think you'd have to include the Bruins. So I'd say I'm going to go with Carolina, Boston, and the Rangers right now. The Devils have been good. The Leafs have been good, but I'm going to go with Carolina, Boston, Rangers. Only if the Rangers can continue to defend this way. Because we were talking the last few years about how much of a sloppy mess they were in their own end and how over-reliant they were on Shesterkin. If that's not the case, I think this team has the goods to go on a deep run.
Yep. Okay.
Wow. The Laviolette factor has to play in. Like, all that guy does is get his teams to Stanley Cup Finals. So I would definitely have the Rangers in. I will have the Leafs, because I still think they're going to make an addition at the trade deadline. And I'll probably put Boston in right now. I was grossly wrong on them to start the season.
I know the feeling. All right, let's go to the other end of the spectrum here. We're kind of getting to that point, 10% of the way through the season, through the first month, where it's like, okay, if you're slow out of the gates, like, this is maybe more than just a slow start. So I want to know, the coach whose seat should be the hottest right now is blank, Jason.
You know what? That's a good question, because I'm not sure I see one who's like if you're San Jose, you could get rid of David Quinn, but why? I think you want to keep your team crappy all year long and give yourself the best odds to win. So I would go. This might sound strange, guys, because he's been there for so long and is a new GM. I'll go in Pittsburgh. It's the only one I really see. I don't necessarily. Actually, I'll change that. I'll go Craig Berube in St. Louis. I think Craig Berube in St. Louis, they can't score to save their life, so it might be him.
I was going to say, it feels like Mike Sullivan's just so ingrained in everything they do there that it'd be hard to see that. Berube would have been my pick as well. Frank, do you have something different?
Yeah, I'm going to say DJ Smith. If the Sens continue to scuffle along, that's got to be the guy. New owner. I know that, Pierre Dorian obviously likes DJ Smith. This is year 5, but 6-12-1 is what sunk them last year. They're 4-4. And yeah, have they hit a couple potholes along the way already? Yes. But that shouldn't excuse what would be another poor start if they can't continue to pile up some wins. And so DJ Smith is my guy. I think there's a single-digit % chance that Mike Sullivan is fired.
Yeah.
He is so wired in with Fenway Sports Group. And I also think he's shown, demonstrated over the last decade that he is one of the very best coaches in the league. I don't think this is a Sullivan thing. I think this is a personnel thing. This is an old team. And also a team that they're not fast. They're not burning up the ice. I think it's way more personnel related than coach related.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you on that. The one thing that really stood out in kind of doing this exercise as I was trying to come up with my own answer was just the fact that there are so many teams and divisions where it is, I know they're only 10 games in, but you look at the Atlantic, every team is either at 500 or only one game below. The Sabres are one game below. That division is going to be an absolute dogfight the entire season. It's going to be crazy.
But I actually want to make a point on that because hockey has changed really significantly in the last 5 to 7 years. 500 doesn't mean anything anymore. 500 gets you 6th or 7th place in your conference. Or your
500 is 82 points.
Yeah, 500 is terrible. It's awful. So you need to be much closer to 7 than 5. And it goes to show you, this is why I think the math becomes important, is for certain teams that have piled up a great start, some of them will get to the point where all they need to do the rest of the way is play 500 in order to get to 96 points. So that's why the math becomes overwhelming for teams so early on. You can take your favorite team, 96 points minus what they have now, and figure out what they need to do the rest of the way. It kind of becomes easy.
All right. Since the 2012-2013 season, there has only been one NHL team fail to get to 50 points on the season. And that was the Colorado Avalanche back in 16-17.
They still have the same coach from then, by the way. And he won a Stanley Cup.
That is it's a total aside, but I always feel so bad for the coach who's got to slog through the rebuild. Then the first year, the team's not living up to expectations out of it. It's and you're gone. So it's nice to see that Jared Bednar can live through it. But the question is about the San Jose Sharks, guys. I know you touched on it a little bit earlier on, but the Sharks will finish with blank points this year. They're going to be worse than that Avs team, Frank?
I mean, it's pretty bad to be that Avs team. I don't think they're going to be quite that bad. At some point, you're going to get Couture back. They're going to catch some teams by surprise later in the year as it goes on because everyone's going to be sleeping on the Shark. Jay's shaking his head. He's going, no, this team's going to be worse. That Avs team was so exceptionally bad, though. The question is it going to be worse? And my answer is no.
Okay, so just so you know, how many games did that 2017 Avs team win? 22. You know how many games the Sharks won last year? 22. They don't have Erik Karlsson this year. Trust me, I said it when the season began. The Sharks are going to be the first team to win fewer than 20 games. Mark it down. It's happening. Now, you know what? That Avalanche team they only had 4 overtime losses, right? Usually the bad teams find a way to get close and they get their bonus points here or there. I don't see the Sharks doing it. Honestly, I think the Sharks are going to win 18 games this year.
The crazy still, I'm looking back on that Avs team from 16-17, 48 points. The most wild part about it is they made the playoffs the following season.
Yeah. Double.
They went from 48 to 95.
Wow. Well, they had some key injuries, but yeah, they
That's a banana sasandwich. I'm sorry.
It wasn't. And look at some of the players they had on that team, Frank.
McKinnon, Duchesne, Rantanen, Tyson Barrie, Landeskog. Jerome McGinley was there for 61 miserable games that year. Eric Johnson on the back end. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is wild. I don't see that.
And by the way, Calvin Pickard had a 905 save percentage that year and played 50 games, and they still only had 48 points.
Yeah,
insane.
It's also crazy. The Sharks lost 16 games in overtime last year, and that wasn't even the most in the league. The Flames had 17 last season.
Yeah,
that is wild. All right, that is a wrap on this week's edition of Fill in the Blank. That promo code to get our Canadian listeners 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more. Nation 25 up at the top of your screen if you're watching on YouTube. Thanks, guys.
Frank, I know you were in Edmonton for the Heritage Classic. I thought the weather was perfect. Ideal that the ice was fast. It wasn't too cold for the crowd. You know, obviously you have that many people that, you know, it's a little cluster at times in the first intermission. Second intermission, lots of people stayed and watched Nickelback for the 3 songs in the crowd. But, you know, picturesque. Overall, I thought, you know, I gave it a 9 out of 10. It was solid event. You've been to a few of these. How would you rank it?
Why would you take a point away? I give it a 10. Like, honestly, and there's no BS here. It says good or better than anyone that I've been to.
Okay.
I thought the Fan Fest downtown was great. I love that it's free and open to the public. There were a ton of people there, some hardcore hockey fans, but a lot of families and kids, casual fans just getting into the game. Nice free event. I thought the scene and setting at Heritage was great. Inside Commonwealth, I thought the way they dressed up the field was cool. I thought the uniforms looked great. The Nickelback was a nice touch. The weather, as you mentioned, I mean, you couldn't draw up any more perfect ODR weather than that. You'd still get a good little sweat in, not freezing, as Leon Draisaitl said, not annoying. It wasn't that cold. And everything about it kind of worked out really nicely.
Yeah, no. The only reason I gave him a 9, Frank, well, there was a massive backlog just before the game to get across.
I stood in it twice.
Yeah, so people didn't like
25 or 30 minutes each time, just wall to wall with people. But I'm not gonna knock the event for that. That's Commonwealth Stadium being a 50-plus-year-old stadium that isn't properly set up for this. But that's not the NHL's fault. I don't take anything away from the event for that.
Yeah. Overall, it was a success. Edmonton got a win. We talked about Calgary. My goodness, they got their offense. Look, like that first 5-on-3 power play, they barely got a shot. And 5-on-5, they didn't generate anything. I think they had 2 high danger chances the entire game. They had 0 high danger chances, Frank, 0 slots from the shot, and 0 chances off the cycle through 40 minutes at 5-on-5. Like, that's almost unheard of.
Yeah, I did. Look, there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about the Flames this year and what's going on. And we'll dive into them more later this week when we connect for our next pod. But I did like that they showed some kind of sign of life, because the way those first 7 minutes of the game started, that could have been a 7 or 8-1 game.
That's true. That's very
and
true.
They were helped a lot by the 5-on-3s and power plays that they had.
Yeah.
That'll certainly shave off a few minutes of scariness since it is Halloween. But there's a lot to dissect with the Flames.
And Frank, before we shut down the pod, we need to tell everybody about the new promo, the new contest that's going to be launching at dailyfaceoff.com. It's the new Survivor Pool, and it's brought to you by Wendy's and their new obsession, the very real barbecue bacon cheeseburger. So while you obsess about your dream team, reward that dedication with Wendy's new obsession, the very real barbecue bacon cheeseburger, freshly added to their lineup. Enjoy the 8 applewood smoked bacon and crispy onions as cheese melts over fresh but never frozen Canadian beef. And most importantly, get ready for this, because the winner is going to take home $5,000 cash, 5G in cash. And it's not a typical Survivor where if you pick the and they lose, you're out for the rest of the year. You can play every week. There's lots of different ones that you can play in, and whoever
prizes
has the
every
most
week
points at the end is going to win the 5G. And then also you mentioned prizes every week. So that's coming to Daily Face-Off very soon.
Saturday on my way back downtown after wheeling out of your house, I went to the Wendy's there in St. Albert. Got a little barbecue bacon cheeseburger, and it was, not gonna lie, it was pretty good.
Top shelf. Yeah. Oh, the double bacon cheeseburger at Wendy's. That's my favorite burger there for sure. For sure. All right, Frank, have a good week. Happy Halloween to everyone. Safe trick-or-treating. Be nice to the kids, including the teenagers. All right. There's nothing worse than being rude to the teenagers. Let them enjoy youth as long as they can. Because as we all know, adult life sucks. So at times, not all the time, just sometimes. So enjoy the teenagers, enjoy the kids, be safe, and we'll talk to you later this week.
Thank you for watching the DFO Rundown. Hit the subscribe button to never miss a show. And for more, visit dailyfaceoff.com.